I'm still with political and social commentator James Melville. James, let's talk, if we can, briefly about Angela Rayner's devolution revolution. Sounds almost as dreary as it actually is. She looks now set, because lots of areas are being reorganised with a view to everyone having an elected mayor. Already, I believe Greater Lincolnshire, Hull and East Yorkshire have been assigned mayors, or at least they will be allowed to vote for their mayors. Also up for this are Hampshire, Sussex, Kent, Essex and Cheshire and others, all earmarked to become areas with elected mayors. Now, that's okay, I suppose, although I do worry. I just feel that, you know, the more you devolution sounds great, but the more you devolve, the more you make government local government preside over national government, the more difficult a country becomes to govern. So I wonder whether or not we're going too far down this road. But the main point to make here is Angela Rayner, funnily enough, said, oh, these areas that are getting reorganised, well, they were going to have their local elections in May, along with the rest of the local councils of this country. But maybe, you know, maybe they won't have them now while they're in the process of reorganisation. Perhaps if they feel, you know, that this reorganisation will somehow or other make it difficult to have these elections, they should let us know and we won't have those elections. In other words, that's the way Angela Rayner is plotting to get out of the inevitable humiliation that the Labour Party will suffer come May, because they're going to get a shellacking in the local elections. They're going to get humiliated. So what's she trying to do? She's trying to stop the elections. It's outrageous.
Yeah, it is to do with that. I mean, I know people saying, oh, but it's happened before. Boris cancelled them in 2020. No, it was COVID. It was completely different. This situation is, yeah, I mean, some of the by-elections that have been happening in the last few weeks would indicate that Reform are going to do pretty well in the next local elections. And in some rural areas, you know, the rare rural areas that Tories, that Labour are doing well, the Tories and Lib Dems will do probably quite well as well, possibly Reform. So it's ultimately, let's try and reframe this. Let's talk about that. We're doing sort of boundaries, new positions, and the rest of it. But ultimately, they're running scared. They're running scared from the electorate, and actually they should front up to it. It doesn't matter whether they change again afterwards. If there's May elections, local elections, and it's set in stone, regardless of the circumstances, they should have those elections. And Labour will have to deal with the consequences. If the punters out there like them, they'll vote for them. But based on what's happened so far, they won't. So that's why Rayner's doing this. And this is an encapsulation. And I think it's something that's really emerging from this Labour government, is that this Labour government are not particularly sort of good bedfellows with democracy. You know, there's so many different, and we talked about this with Brexit. You know, what point do we get to in our country where the government, you know, frame it in whatever way they want, say, nah, in certain areas we're going to postpone this local election? That is absolutely appalling. A fully functioning democracy means it has to be fully functioning, and that's elections when they're set, regardless of the circumstances, unless it's an absolute national emergency. Yeah. But the only emergency here is for Labour, because they think they're going to lose loads of their councillors.
Yeah, they're going to get embarrassed, they're humiliated, they know that, so their technique is to get rid of these elections. So all 21 county councils in England are currently up for election on May the 1st, and there's 10 larger authorities as well will take place in those elections. Now, this is what Local Government Minister Jim McMahon said. Listen to this. Oh, this is what the government's saying to these local authorities. This is an open invitation for councillors who want to be part of an early tranche of reorganisation and devolution to come forward. At the moment, the assumption is that the elections are going ahead. However, It's usual in a process of reorganisation that when a council makes a request for reorganisation, that if there are elections taking place to a council that essentially won't exist within the terms of those elections, you hold off those elections and you elect a shadow body. Well, what he's saying there is if you're being reorganised, you know, they may change the boundaries, therefore these elections aren't worth having. No, no, no. Labour only want to hold off these elections so that they don't have to deal with the utter humiliation of getting crushed in all of them because everybody hates them, because they're useless.
Yeah, completely. It's all, people can see that straight away, but ultimately it's not going to help them. You know, it might delay the inevitable in certain councils in terms of the elections, but they'll still have to happen at some point. But by doing this, I mean, from a optics point of view, this just isn't helping. It's just stupid. It's like something out the thick of it. I go, now we'll delay a bit because we're so delusional. Everyone will love us one day.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, no, that's not going to happen. You've done the 5 months, and that's why the approval ratings are at record lows. The approval ratings are there because of a reason. There's so many reasons why this Labour government are massively unpopular. You know, we've touched on some of them tonight, but one of the reasons is I think most people in the country think that this government, they're not particularly democratic. You know, Brexit's one example, but also the local elections, and you stack all these things up, the lack of accountability, lack of democracy, you know, the freebies scandal, what's happening with the farmers, what's happening with the pensioners, you know, what's happening potentially with the fishing communities, what's happening with, you know, women born in the 1950s today. You know, it's almost day by day there's another thing that's happening from this government that's either to do with punishment or an affront to democracy, a lack of transparency, all wrapped around a prime minister who, you know, he's the pole-faced sanctimony of him, where he comes across like he's basically giving the British public a lecture the whole time.
Yeah, he does. He's sanctimonious. He's like a parochial parson or a priest with a very small congregation who no longer listen to him. But they think we're stupid. You know, they think we can't see through this. You know, we can see what you're doing with Brexit, mate, and we can see what you're doing with the local elections. We're not stupid. We know what you're doing. You're trying to maintain some kind of image of popularity, and you've lost it. You've lost it because you're hopeless. You're absolutely hopeless. And by the way, what is he? He's abroad again. He's in Estonia. He was in Norway yesterday. Now he's in Estonia. Nobody needs to go to Norway and Estonia. What the hell is he doing there? And a quick last word, we've only got about a minute, but I'm noticing that he's about to lose his left-wing mate Olaf Scholz from Germany, who's lost the vote of no confidence, so there'll be an election there in February. Meanwhile, over in Canada, that other lefty, Justin Trudeau, he looks like he's finished as well. I think this is the Trump effect. I think that all over the world, populations are apart from Britain, we're moving right. They're moving right, and they're not going to put up with this liberal, elite, metropolitan nonsense anymore. Yeah, and it's not liberal. That's the reason. You know, I'm a liberal. You're a liberal. Liberal means basically live and let live. You know, back up democracy. You know, the so-called self-styled liberals are illiberal. That was shown over COVID. It's happening over the Brexit thing as well. They have nothing to do with liberalism. Absolutely. Listen, James, I've got to go because it's the end of the hour. I want to find out what the mouse thought of everything, but you can come back to me with that. Good to talk to you. Brilliant stuff from political and social commentator James Melville.